Tonight on the Black Channel. Well, maybe if I have a white woman say it, folks won't be arguing with me. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the everlasting superfortress of intelligent black thought. We are the Black Media. This is the Black Channel. I am the Black Authority. And you are listening live to the only historically black college university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. Join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program here, gotta do some housekeeping. Got to do that. And ordinary, I feel like Drake, after this I might be mad that I gave this attention. But, I gotta do some housekeeping here because there's a reason that they call us the Black Media. There's a reason why this microphone is the headquarters of it. And there are a number of folks who actually act like they know what they're talking about, and they'll jump in chat rooms. There's a reason why they sit in chat rooms and are not in a position where they would be accountable for saying these kind of things. Now, I did a video last week. Did a program last week explaining to you all the countries that were still part of the British Commonwealth, but especially the countries that made up what they call the Commonwealth realm nations, which includes Canada, Australia, Jamaica. And there were some folks who were trying to dispute me about certain things. They were trying to argue about, it ain't really like that. I mean, these folks, they ain't really holding on to it like that. You exaggerating what it is right there. It ain't really that much right there. While they are throwing it off, you are exaggerating what the importance of being Commonwealth realm nations is. Well, since that time, some other folks have had some things to say, and maybe because they're white, maybe if they say it, then there won't be such an argument over it. But once you can get a white person to corroborate it, maybe then folks will listen.
King Charles III hasn't just become the reigning monarch of the United Kingdom, he's now officially the head of state for 14 countries outside of the UK known as Commonwealth realms, from Australia and Canada to Belize and the Bahamas. Now, some of those countries are having fresh debates about cutting ties with the monarchy. But even if there's popular support, legal experts and scholars say that abolishing the British monarch as head of state can be legally challenging. So,
whoa! Well, I'll be damned. Hold on a second. Well, isn't that what Jason said? You see, when she started, it sounded like some of the uninformed imbeciles from last week. It started like them, but wait a minute. That last sentence she says that, by the way, even if they wanted to do that, this is going to be difficult. Well, wow, that sounds like it refutes what they were saying and says exactly what I was saying the whole time.
Monarchy. But even if there's popular support, legal experts and scholars say that abolishing the British monarch as head of state can be legally challenging. So here's a look at some of the countries talking about becoming republics and the challenges they could face moving forward. The 14 countries that have kept the British monarch as their sovereign were all part of the British Empire. And just like in the UK, the role of the monarch in these realms is largely symbolic and ceremonial. King Charles doesn't have much actual power. While some people like the idea of having a unifying figure who transcends politics, others believe, for various reasons, that it's time to cut ties. In countries like Australia and New Zealand, my colleague Mike Cherney says a lot of people simply want a head of state that's from Australia or New Zealand.
They really chafe at this idea that the head of state of their country is basically a person who lives on the other side of the planet.
The prime ministers of both countries have expressed support for replacing the monarch, but not necessarily right now.
I believe it's likely to occur in my lifetime.
It's a different story in some Caribbean realms, like Jamaica.
Well, did you see that from New Zealand? Let me back it up one more time so you all can understand. I don't just say things because it sounds cute. I don't just say it because I have a program to host. I say it because this is actually reality.
Replacing the monarch, but not necessarily right now.
I believe it's likely to occur in my lifetime.
It's a different story in some Caribbean realms, like Jamaica, Antigua and Barbuda, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where there is more urgency to cut ties.
Fundamentally, it goes to the question of slavery, which is a very living memory in the Caribbean. As one historian has said, the Caribbean was Britain's South. The Caribbean was where all of this happened.
On recent
Well, Jason, you see, you ain't so smart. See, we showed you in the Caribbean. See, they is ready to kick it off. See, you try to make it seem like you were right. You just don't want to admit you ain't right about that. Hold on a second here, Waldo Faldo. While you hear dudes sitting up here getting real agitated and talking big, maybe you should check the fine print.
Was Britain's South. The Caribbean was where all of this happened.
On recent trips to the region, Prince William and his wife Kate were met with protests and calls for apologies and reparations. In a speech, Prince William expressed his sorrow for Britain's role in slavery.
Slavery was abhorrent, and it should never have happened.
During that trip, the Prime Minister of Jamaica told him that the country intends to break free of the royal family.
We are moving on.
And shortly after the Queen's death, the Prime Minister of
Well, didn't that seem big right there? See, Jason, the Prime Minister, see, you taking L's back to back, Jason. You just ain't ready to admit it. Well, the Prime Minister stood right there in front of his face and said, we moving on. See, Jason just don't want to... Are you sure?
During that trip, the Prime Minister of Jamaica told him that the country intends to break free of the royal family.
We are moving on.
And shortly after the Queen's death, the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda told ITV News that he plans to hold a referendum to cut ties in the coming years.
It is the final step, as I said before, to complete that circle of independence.
But legally, experts say that the process of cutting ties and changing constitutions isn't necessarily easy.
Huge challenges, possibly insuperable.
Derek O'Brien, a researcher of Caribbean constitutional law, told me that in the remaining realms, the legal bar is quite high. Unlike Barbados, which only required a special majority vote in Parliament to become a republic last year, most remaining Caribbean realms require by law both a special majority vote among lawmakers and a successful referendum. And in some realms, the referendum must get 2/3 of the vote to pass.
As much as I would wish to do it, I can't do it without your consent. I'll have to have a referendum, and the Bahamian people have to say to me, yes.
Derek says those are...
Did you hear him? Well, as much as I would like, he sounds like the damn black politicians in America. You know, as much as I would like to be able to do this for you right here, I mean, you know, I can't just jump up and go do nothing now. As much as I would love to do it now, I got to get together and we have to have a plebiscite and we have to have a quorum and we got to have a do-si-do. So until we can do that, you know, it's not that easy. Y'all don't understand. It ain't that easy.
To do it, I can't do it without your
realms, the referendum must get 2/3 of the vote to pass.
As much as I would wish to do it, I can't do it without your consent. I'll have to have a referendum, and the Bahamian people have to say to me, yes.
Derek says those are huge hurdles, and he points out that several referendums have failed in the past, like in St. Vincent, Antigua, and the Bahamas.
Wow. Okay, so these referendums have already failed in the past. Interesting.
There are a number of factors, but one common denominator was they lacked bipartisan.
He looks so interested. I mean, he looks so worried, doesn't he? Number one, he looks very interested, doesn't he? Number two, he looks very worried. Sarcasm intended.
Vincent, Antigua, and the Bahamas.
There are a number of factors, but one common denominator was they lacked bipartisan support.
Over in Australia, a republic referendum failed in 1999. Some believe it's because voters didn't like the alternative plan of picking a new head of state. And in New Zealand, a treaty viewed as a founding document of the country is between the indigenous Maori and the British Crown.
Each country has its own sort of legal situation that needs to be untangled.
So now they're telling you that, by the way, the indigenous people have a treaty with England. We're going to sketch to that. Boy, I'm white and I say so is a hell of a thing, ain't it? Now all of a sudden you are honoring a treaty with the indigenous people and us. All of a sudden now we doing that? Really? Maybe the indigenous people need to remind you about reparations and everything. They'll recognize the indigenous people when it suits them. Okay.
Is between the indigenous. And in New Zealand, a treaty viewed as a founding document of the country is between the indigenous Maori and the British Crown.
Each country has its own sort of legal situation that needs to be untangled.
In Canada, where a poll showed that half of Canadians don't think the country should continue as a constitutional monarchy, the legal bar might be the highest. There would have to be unanimous consent among the country's federal parliament and all 10 provincial legislatures. While there appears to be a surge of support for the royal family in the wake of Queen Elizabeth's death, experts say that this global debate over who the British monarch should represent is likely to intensify in the coming months.
So you see, it's not going to be folks just jumping up and we ready to move on. Actually, they're saying, well, there's legalities and there's paperwork and, we have to do this and this. We have to have a referendum and plebiscites. And we have to get together and call my auntie and see if she agrees. And these words mean things. That's all I've been saying the entire time is these words mean things. And if you haven't checked that's right, the Treaty of Waitangi. Yeah. I mean, seriously, they're like, oh, you do understand we have a treaty. Wait a minute, you white folk been trampling these treaties for the last 500 years. Well, you know what? We decided to give peace a chance. Really? When we ready to bounce and get up out of here, all of a sudden, we got to honor the treaties now. All of a sudden, we need to honor the treaties. We need more treaties. You can't ignore the treaty now. Wait a second. We got a treaty? You can't overlook it now. What happened to our treaty? Got to have it. Got to have it. You do understand, if the treaty is not being honored, there's problems. They've been trampling and stomping on treaties now for hundreds of years. They've told you that whatever new law they have written supersedes whatever damn treaty they ever made with you. Now, all of a sudden, there's a treaty out there. There is one still sticking around out there, Did we sign it under duress? Does that really matter? I mean, we don't need to quibble about these things when you think about it. So for all the folks who thought there was going to be this mass exodus, hate to hurt your feelings, the exodus might not be as mass or as quick as you thought to yourself or might have told yourself. I don't think it's going to go quite as quick as you told yourself. I don't think it's going to go quite that fast. I think it's going to be a little bit slower than that. But the real reason is because the people, are you all have any confidence that these Caribbean countries want to give up their legal affiliation with the monarchy? You have to understand that to them, that's what makes them different. With all this talk now about Black American culture, FBA culture, you got to understand for these other folks, their ties to white society are what make them unique and special. To them, that's their accomplishment. We're talking about what we did here. And they're saying, yeah, but you aren't friends with the monarchy. That's the problem with you. You are not friends with the monarchy. So I'm like, okay, it sounds great on the internet, but as soon as they hold a vote and say, okay, we need all Jamaicans to give up their honorary whiteness. Wait now, Bumbaclot. Hold on a second now. We cannot get jiggy with these at all. We already gave out tickets to the barbecue. Okay. Okay. You all think it's going to be a cakewalk when they tell them you're about to give up your honorary whiteness? Wait a minute now. Hold on a second. Hold on a minute now. Well, what does that mean? It means you'll be just like the black folk in America. You'll have to be independent on your own. Whoa. Wait a second. We don't even have an award show. What you mean we gonna be on our own? We don't even have our own award show yet. Hell, we need a bridging period. You can't just drop us cold turkey. We need a bridge period. Furthermore, I want you all to understand something. Think about this for just a few moments. If these Caribbean countries, if these Caribbean nations give up their realm status or their commonwealth status, will they still be allowed to freely, illegally migrate into Great Britain the way they've been allowed to for the previous 60, 70 years? I ain't even gonna do the mic drop for you. Think about that for a few moments. Right now, folks from Jamaica are allowed to illegally immigrate into that place, but if they set themselves up as no longer being part of the Commonwealth, will they be allowed to illegally migrate into these places the way that they've been doing? Or will they find that all of a sudden Britain starts treating them like the Haitians or whatever? Oh, no, you're not allowed in here. Could they look up one morning and that occur? See, you all haven't thought about this part. I've been thinking about all of this. By the way, they're a little certain. Why do they fight so hard to keep that connection and affiliation? Oh, because there's little fringe benefits that come with that. There's little fringe benefits that come with that. You're not a citizen of Great Britain just because you're part of the Commonwealth realm, but they are allowed to do their little illegal alien thing over there. Will the government of Britain take a different view? Will they take a different view if you leave the Commonwealth? Because let me tell you, that would be the perfect way of punishing folk, wouldn't it? Hey, here's a signal to the rest of you folks in the Caribbean. You mess around and leave the Commonwealth realm, and we gonna show you we ain't got to build a wall. We got a Navy fleet to keep your asses out. If you try to sneak over through Heathrow Airport, we're going to be checking paperwork. You try to come through on the train, we checking documents. You try to sneak over the border, we grabbing you. You try to sneak over the border, we grabbing you. We own you. Gonna find yourself all of a sudden sitting all kinds of bad. They'll make an example of them and say, okay, the rest of you Caribbean nations you want to follow, you want to lose your little fringe perks? You want to lose your little fringe benefits? In the chat room, B1 Beauty Supply, that's actually not what occurred, because the problem is that most of them don't own the stuff that actually means anything or has value down there, so they wouldn't actually be in a modern setting. Ultimately, it could turn out okay, but you can't get anybody to move on when they draw the value of their identity from another group of folk. When you see folks like Nicki Minaj and Cardi B and them trying to tie themselves to some other place, Amber Rose, I'm Cape Verdean. You're trying to say I've got whiteness. I got white privileges. I'm not like the rest of you. You just think I am. I'm not like you. So anything they can hit, that's what gives it value. That's what gives it value. So right now, what they're telling you is I've got an exotic status. They've got an exotic status. So that's what they're holding on to. Can I have this exotic status? You can't make me give that up. And now you're finding out, there's legal hurdles. It's not as simple as, okay, we out. It's not going to be that simple. And just understand, right now that they see some folks are trying to get serious about cutting ties, don't you know the emails already came in? By the way, just so you know, you better take a look at Haiti. Be a hell of a thing if you turned out like them. Just saying. Just saying. Be a hell of a thing if you cut ties with us. Fool around and end up just like them down in Haiti. Your economy's all messed up. You can't trade right with nobody. And we're not buying stuff from you. See, as a Commonwealth realm, see, we got little trade deals and stuff. You good, you in there. But if you break off on your own, I don't know about that. Don't know about that. It could be rough. It could be rough from here on in. Things could be hard. We can't guarantee you anything else. We can't guarantee you that. See, you was good when you were rolling with us like that. I don't know about it. I don't know about that. Now, you see, that's the above board thing. But then there is the underhanded thing, because do you understand that you could actually be a part of the Commonwealth without being a part of the Commonwealth? If you have a leadership that gives favored nation status or whatever, there's other ways that you can retain Commonwealth status without having to let the people know. It's like, okay, the people say we out, okay. And next thing you know, all the laws are still the same. The affiliations are still the same. The connections are still the same. So I just thought you all ought to know that, by the way, I wasn't saying it for nothing. Nobody, look, people, if being the, quote, head of state was a meaningless, powerless position, it wouldn't be there. Folks, if it was a meaningless, powerless position, it wouldn't be there. In the chat room, Jughead said it's not going to be that easy for them. They'll even punish the West Indians. They're already over here. Look what the UK government did to the Windrush generation over here a few years ago. Brother Jeff is correct. He is correct. Folks don't understand. It's like, okay, all that niceness and poshness and daintiness and hello old chap and all that stuff right there, that goes right out the damn window if they ain't getting their way. That goes right out the damn window. So I just want you to understand, a lot of folks are getting their notice that, by the way, if you kick up too much dust over this, ain't no telling how it could go. I'm letting you know, folks have let them know that there will be consequences if you start whittling down the realm. There will be, they didn't spend 500 years building the empire to watch it disintegrate in a century. That wasn't why they did it. I don't know what history book y'all been reading. They did not build this thing over they wouldn't have a damn website documenting how many people are in the Commonwealth if it wasn't important to them. I don't know how else to say it to you. Explain to me why the hell there is an official government website there that is documenting the Commonwealth. If it don't mean nothing, if it has no value, if it is quote unquote a powerless position, why is it there if it's a powerless position? Obviously it isn't. It's obviously not a powerless. It's not symbolic. People, Mexican flags in America are symbolic. That's why they can be taken down at will. There is no Mexican head of state. There's none of that. They know what the hell's going on. This woman, well, maybe we'll get it done in our lifetime. Wait a minute, hold on a second. She must have got her hostage note. Folks, you don't fight this hard to hold on to something that doesn't mean anything. You don't have legal scholars showing up here on the Wall Street Journal. You don't have legal scholars, legal constitutional scholars showing up here if it doesn't mean anything. If it meant nothing, this man wouldn't be talking. He's talking because he's letting you know, by the way, there's legalities that make that very difficult. But if it's only symbolic, why would there be any legalities? You don't have legalities for symbolism. You have legalities for power and control, not symbolism. You tell the masses that this is symbolic. And as soon as the masses attempt to tentatively, concretely move against that symbolic thing, you then tell them, oh, there's legalities that you can't move against it. Wait a minute, I thought it was symbolic. If it's symbolic, then it's irrelevant. Well, it is symbolic, but you better not move against it. That's not symbolic is what I'm telling you. It's not symbolic. Well, Jason, why would this kind of thing matter? Why would it be important? Why would you want to hold on to that? I'm going to say it. I got to say it. It'll make you uncomfortable, but I simply must say it here. Y'all got to understand, after World War II, if you'll remember when the Nazis were defeated in World War II, I'm going to say it. Where did they all go when they fled Europe? Everybody who didn't want to die fled Europe. And where did they go? Most of them went down to South America, Argentina, Brazil, Venezuela, Chile. They went down to South America because it was a place that was friendly and had friendly ideology. So you see, they had a fallback position. When the day came that they needed to have a fallback position, they had one. They didn't do it because it was symbolic. It wasn't symbolic for them, it was literal. So you see, when you've got countries that see themselves as your kinsmen, ideologically, that matters. When you got places in South America calling themselves Kyle Rittenhouse centers, that matters. Because that's not symbolic. If you remember the Shah of Iran, when the Ayatollah took over, they chased his ass out to America, Britain, and anywhere else he could run to. Hamid Karzai in Afghanistan. When the Taliban took over, off he ran. So when these people put these structures together, it's so they have beachheads and other places, fallback positions. You don't go through the work of building all that just to give it up. No one does. That would be insanity. They have it because you represent something. And if the day ever, let me tell you something, Prince Harry isn't showing up because it's symbolic. If he's going through the expense of showing up there, think about that for a few moments here. If this man has gone through all the expense of showing up over there, was a damn video ad. He went through all the expense of coming to see you all. The Prince of Wales, he's come all the way on the other side of the world to see you all, to tell you slavery is bad. Okay, we all understand that. What you getting at? We all understand that. What is it you're getting at? Why didn't he come here and say, you know what? You all don't need to be part of the Commonwealth anymore. He didn't say that. If it's irrelevant and symbolic, why didn't he say, well, technically speaking, you all don't really have any ties to it anyway? Why didn't he say that? Why didn't he say that? That's what I'm trying to tell you. You see, you all have been taught that you have 50 states. Well, you're correct. There are 50 states. You have technically 50 states, as it were, but it goes beyond that. Because just like the British Commonwealth, America was empire building also. So yes, you have 50 states, but you also have what are called 14 territories. It's like 14 or 16, depending on how you count them. You get the idea. Depending on how you count them, it's 14 or 16. We can debate that particular number a little bit later if you want to. but you've got 50 states and over a dozen territories. Are those symbolic? In the chat room, correct. States that don't have any representatives in Congress, they're basically told to run themselves. And yet, is that symbolic? Do they say, well, we're symbolically part of the U.S.? Is that symbolic? Is it? Okay. Why in the world would you want to have these abilities? Why in the world would you want to do that? Why in the world would you want to have that? Maybe it's because conquering the mind, conquering the hearts and the minds, you are in a never-ending war to conquer the hearts and the minds of the people so that they do not identify as something else. Think of all the money you save on warfare and bullets and bombs when the people have adopted it on their own. All sorts of things. What if you were able to give them an idea? What if you could give them an idea and then get them to hold on to the idea? Case in point, whole lot of uproar now about this movie, The Woman King. They sent out their black shills and puppets to try to help it out. It's struggling. The director, Gina Prince Bythewood, talking about the backlash against the film. She said, you cannot win an argument on Twitter. You know what? You're absolutely right, ma'am. Hold that thought and keep that energy. By the way, hold that thought and keep that energy. We'll be right back. This is from Kate Erbland for IndieWire. The Viola Davis starring historical epic has been plagued by negative social media chatter, and as the film opens, its creators tell IndieWire what they hope comes next. What they hope comes next. Hope is not a strategy, but all right. Hope is not a strategy, but all right. By the way, one of the other articles here on IndieWire says that The Woman King has earned an A+ cinema score grade. A+. A+. So they're already at work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take a screenshot of that. We'll see how well that ages. But by the way, they're talking about it has an A+ cinema score. Now, the article here on IndieWire that I got on your screen, it says, as Gina Prince Bythewood's historical epic, The Woman King, was hitting theaters on Friday, after a successful premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival last week and a solid Thursday night opening of nearly $2 million in early showings on Twitter, a different narrative was unfolding. As the hashtag Boycott Woman King trended on the social media platform, a number of users professed their disinterest in seeing a film that they believe obscured the history of the Kingdom of Dahomey, in which the Viola Davis starring film is set. At issue, that the film, set in 1823, does not accurately portray the relationship between the West African country and the slave trade. The fervor over the film's perceived inaccuracies, Okay, you can see who wrote the article. Let me go ahead and zoom in on her since she wants to talk like that. Okay, you can see who wrote the article. I'll let that speak for itself, but you can see who wrote the article, so capes out. By the way, if you like tonight's program, give me a thumbs up in the chat room and hit the likes button for me. If you don't, I'll go ahead and wrap things up here in a moment. But if you like tonight's program so far, give me a thumbs up in the chat room and hit the likes button for me. If you don't, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here in a few minutes. The fervor over the film's perceived inaccuracies appeared to be stoked by the film's marketing, which centered it as predominantly focusing on the all-female warrior army of Ogoije, plus recent articles that purport to share the, quote, real history of the kingdom, including this National Review piece, which dives into the history of how some African nations, including Dahomey, were guilty of participating in the slave trade with European invaders, offering up their own countrymen in exchange for material goods. But while those historical notations are true, they also don't reflect the content of Prince Bythewood's film itself, which does not shy away from the link between the Kingdom of Dahomey and the repugnant slave trade. In fact, much of the film, written by Dana Stevens and Maria Bello, two white women, follows the exact storyline, with Davis, revered General Nanniska, attempting to sway her king, John Boyega, to abandon the slave trade because of its horrific impact on their fellow countrymen. What the hell? What the hell? What the hell, Roman candlesticks? Okay, I thought the film was just bad here. The article's even worse. She goes on to say it's not just mentioned in the film. She puts mentioned in italics. So she's emphasizing it's not just mentioned in the film. It's a large portion of the drama of its story. But when people boycott a film, presumably without seeing it first, that message is lost. So, I mean, boy, y'all, the white women are caping. They are caping super heavy here, aren't they? I mean, they are hard at work, boy. That flapping sound you hear are the capes. Must be something real damn important. This is a movie with black women in it. When have you ever seen white women come to black women's defense so hard like this before? Shout out to MS Delta Guy in the super chat. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And all of you here who contributed to the program here live. Also on PayPal and Cash App. Thank you very much for your support here tonight. We cooking with napalm. When's the last time you saw white women's coming to black women's a film about black women like this? When's the last time you all saw this happen? This many white women involved? You know the fix is in. You know the fix is in. Never seen it before. Viola Davis has been struggling and striving all this damn time, and now out of nowhere, it's a squad of white women coming with their capes flapping. Where they do that at? Where they do that at? When did we start doing this? Since when did we start doing this? When did this become the thing to do? Okay. Now, she says, quote, I learned early on you cannot win an argument on Twitter, Prince Bythewood told IndieWire during a recent interview. Quote, and I know all of that is going to go away once they see the film. There's an assumption we're not dealing with it, and we are dealing with it, so I have to live in that confidence. They're going to see the film, and they're going to see it. Now, this article goes on for a while longer. This goes on for a while longer. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put you through some of it. As mentioned in IndieWire's review of the film, Nanniska is a fierce warrior and an impressive leader, but she's grown tired of violence, or at least of the things that make it feel necessary, like slavery. Davis is, of course, perfect casting for a role that requires both gravitas and deep empathy. More than anything, she wants King Gizo to see the possibility of a Dahomey that does not need to engage in the slave trade. Yes, they sell to the white men. No, the woman king does not turn away from this part of history to be prosperous. That it does not need to sell any black body to get ahead. Quote, I really wish that the conversations could happen around the film as opposed to around the anticipation of the film, because I think that we did not hesitate to investigate those areas, producer Kathy Schulman told IndieWire during a recent interview. Okay. So just understand who's behind these things. The fact is that slavery is driven by material gain. It offered up people on this continent an option to make money that should not have been offered up or forced upon them. And once it was, it created all sorts of internal conflict. And we don't hesitate in visiting that within the film. She added, quote, "I'm a big believer that information is power, and I think that understanding issues surrounding slavery from the standpoint of the African perspective is relevant. We look at it most of the time from what happened once these people were enslaved and were actually landing here in America versus what was going on the other side." Deadline reports that the film is estimated to earn $18 million this weekend, boosted in part by positive word of mouth. The film received an A+ cinema score in early showings, signaling that those who had actually seen the film enjoyed what they saw enough to heartily recommend it to others. Now, that's an interesting thing. That's an interesting thing. Especially when you look at other articles. You know, like this. Interesting. Interesting. What does this say? A little bit different here. From Showbiz 411. The Woman King fights uphill battle with $5 million opening night and Twitter boycott. What does Mr. Roger Friedman have to say here? It's a battle royale for the Woman King. Sony's much-hyped Gina Prince Bythewood spectacular debuted with $5 million Friday night, a total of $6.8 million, including Thursday previews. The weekend total will come in less than $20 million, somewhere between $17 million and $18 million. The Woman King is at war on many fronts, including a Twitter boycott by people who are misreading its historical intent. Boy, I'm telling you, Nate Parker didn't get any of this kind of support, did he? Nate Parker didn't get any of this. I mean, old Nate didn't get any of this. I mean, they're not even trying to be objective. They're not being neutral at all. They're going straight to, you see, the problem is you niggas is misreading everything. Boy, I'm telling you, Nate Parker did not get any of this kind of treatment at all. Isn't that amazing? He didn't get any of this. With the media defending it, he didn't get any of this. Yeah, boy, I'm telling you, they love things all of a sudden here now, don't they? They love all of this, don't they? I just want to remind you that, by the way, when Nate Parker was out there, the media wasn't talking like this. I just want to remind you, they weren't talking like this, were they? I mean, they're acting like the publicists. Sony must have passed the bag around. Sony passed the bag around and let the writers out there know, hey, anybody caught bad-mouthing, don't be surprised if you catch a fade, you better not talk too much smack. Now he goes on to say here, the Woman King is at war on many fronts, including a Twitter boycott by people who are misreading its historical intent. On the plus side, the movie has an A+ cinema score. People who see it really like it, but that may not matter in the long run. Thursday and Friday sales were spotty depending on theater location, but things look good for tonight, so the audience may have just been playing wait and see about word of mouth and reviews. Also, there's not a lot to choose from this weekend other than the very good Confess Fletch. So, in case anybody was wondering, they're already worried out there. They're not worried a little bit. They are already super worried. They are quaking in their damn boots. They are very worried about this. And it's very good. So on the one hand, what they're trying to tell you is that what you have to say doesn't really matter. And on the other hand, they're panicking about it. They're not asking you what you want. They're here to tell you this is what you need to be doing. And that if you don't like it, it's because you've misread it. A bunch of white people telling black people that we don't have our heads screwed on straight. Think about that for a few moments. This is a bunch of white people making movies, paying for them, writing articles directed specifically at black folk to tell us that we don't really know. Mr. Friedman's a white man, by the way, if I need to tell you. These are white folks here to tell us that we're wrong. Think about that for a few moments. These are white folk coming into our arenas to tell us that we are wrong, that we don't get it, that we don't understand, that we are misreading it, and that if only we would listen to them, we could get it right. But the problem is you all are knee-jerk and you're reactionary and you won't listen and you're misinformed. Now, you notice none of them said that about Birth of a Nation. And I saw Birth of a Nation, drove all the way from Shreveport to Dallas. I saw Birth of a Nation. The media wasn't talking nothing like this. They wanted to talk about why they didn't like the film, why they didn't like the director, why they didn't like Nat Turner. That was all the white media was doing. So you know the fix is in. You know this isn't right. You know it isn't. Whenever one of my films comes out, they don't talk like this. They don't talk like this at all when one of my films comes out. They don't talk like this at all when Tariq puts out a film. They don't talk like this at all. There's no damn defense. And oh yeah, by the way, and they didn't even see it. You don't hear any of them saying, well, you know, you can't judge it before you see it. They don't say that at all. What you mean, race war? What do you mean there's a race war? What do you mean gentrified, ethnic cleansing American style? What you talking about? We don't get any of this reaction. None. Now, when you've got this many white folk coming among black people fighting this hard to get black folk to go with the program, what I'm telling you is that's not symbolic. They are not offering symbolic support. There is obviously something very real going on here. Shout out Curly Girl and everybody else in the super chat. I see y'all out there representing. Understand that's not accidental when you see this many folk jumping up. You've never seen it before. And yet here they all are, capes flapping. And it's like, I'll be damned. You know, we could have used some of this when Nate Parker was running around. We could have used some of this. Would have been nice to have some of this support then, you think? So that's your first damn clue in Hollywood. When they're standing up this damn hard, that's your first damn clue that this isn't anything good for you. That's your first clue that this is nothing good for you. It can't be. There's nothing good here for you. Whatever it is here, this is not going to be to your benefit because you're seeing too many of the bad guys, too many of the usual suspects. All of a sudden, they're this vocal. Yeah, they're letting you know this is part of the agenda. This is part of the agenda. And it reaches even further than that. It reaches even further than that. It goes even further than that. And we're going to get to that here in just a moment. Because I'm talking tonight about black nations having a white king. But I'm really discussing about what it does when they are colonizing your minds and your thoughts. And let me tell you, I'm just getting started. Before we do, though, I'm going to take a very brief non-commercial break. When I come back, wait till you hear who else is here to tell black folk what we're wrong about and what we need to be thinking about. We don't have our heads on straight and we need to be corrected. Wait till you hear who else has some more white folk with marching orders for us. I see a trend forming. Before we do, I want to give a very special shout out here to everybody who's contributed to support tonight's program here. Brenda Starr, Mr. Shields, Mark B., Iris Johnson, everybody else who's contributed on PayPal, Cash App, or Super Chat, thank you very much. Your support is appreciated here. We're going to take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When I come back, you don't want to miss this about the next person who's going to tell us what we are wrong about as black people. This is The Black Channel.
Are you tired of being overcharged and forced into paying a monthly subscription for your Mac and Windows software? Well, if you are, currently we're having a 50% off discount on all the latest Mac and Windows software, such as AutoCAD, SolidWorks, Photoshop, Microsoft Office, and much more. Our 50% off discount will be ending soon, so be sure to text us Need Software to 323-407-8214. That's 323-407-8214. We aim to please, so expect 24/7 technical support, the latest premium software, instant software links delivered to your email, and PayPal's buyer's protection guarantee.
When you need a reliable influx of capital to grow your business, Spectre Capital Finance provides fast, individualized working capital loans with lines of credit to take your business to the next level. SpectreCapitalFinance.com.
Hey, I'm Marcus. For a while, I walked around with this empty feeling inside. I had a full-time job, but not in the field I wanted to be in. But then I came across this book where it was like, the title was just for me. Guide to Being Black in IT. I read the book and the author took me through scenarios and gave me tips. I sat down and read it and it only took an hour. After I got done, I took advice in the book, practiced in the labs, and got certified. Then I literally got up and applied for a position with the company I've been looking at for a while and got the job. Thanks to that book, I worked my job with confidence. If you're looking to get into IT or even in the field, now this is a must-read book. Go to www.beingblackinit.com.
I am black first. I am empowered. I am on code. I am motivated. I am a proud foundational. My name is Maria Sellers, and nothing will come between us. Buy the sci-fi novel, Nothing Will Come Between Us. Order today at Amazon and Google Play. Visit spiritofo1811publishing.com. Our story, our family.
Join 6zeros.net, a forum built to discuss all things relevant to black people. On our forum, a check doesn't mean you're famous. It means your blackness has been verified by our staff.
Sorry, Chad.
We also have premium merchandise with same-day shipping on most orders. And when you're ready for some dope content, check out the 0 Hour blog.
Don't just sign up, post.
I'm having a really good time with you tonight.
I'm having a good time with you too.
Want to go somewhere private? Just for us?
I like that.
Great. Meet me at 6zeros.net. Black owned, black operated.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slavery and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is The Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening. And as promised, boy, I'm telling you, black folk, we got a lot of folk who want to be the white king now. A lot of folk who want to be our white king. And what they're doing, I told you all a decade ago, they're no longer being polite about it. They're not asking what we think anymore. They're here to come marching in and to tell us what we think, to tell us what we're right or wrong about. And guess who has thrown their Burger King crown into the ring? None other than DJ Vlad. Why, he's here to tell us where we're wrong about the history of hip hop and Latinos being involved. He's here to tell us where we're wrong. So apparently he must have taken grievous exception to what we said. He's taken grievous exception apparently to what Tariq has said. And he's here to let everybody know where black folk are wrong about this. No, I'm not kidding at all. So he goes and gets Tony Yayo. Well, I'm very certain I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts. He's not foundational at all. Anybody running around with that click up there, you're going to be highly doubtful. So I'm pretty sure he's not. So he grabs Tony Yayo because you're going to grab somebody who's going to go along with the line you're trying to push. Not a scholar or anything. But this is what he had to say about that. Boy, he's going to go get somebody to defend him if he can.
I think like recently when Fat Joe was on stage and said that blacks and Latinos started hip hop, and a lot of people got mad at him.
What do you mean? I'm lost.
All right, now there you go. First of all, there goes DJ Vlad. If you want to know why folks call you a culture vulture, if you want to know why people keep running you up off the damn block, Matt Hoffa, if you want to know why it is that black folk with some sense don't fool with this bastard, what you just saw there was it right there. That was it. He doesn't want to confine it to white folk or whatever. He always wants to ask black folk, well, you know, hey, there's some other black folk over there. They said something right there. Why don't you go ahead and comment on that right there, you know? And dude's like, I'm not even sure what you're referring to. Oh, well, don't worry. I'll go ahead and fill you in on it here right here. We can go ahead and see if we can get that started there, dude, you know? Hey. Yeah, you know, it was just like that right there, you know? But dude said, by the way, I don't even know what you're talking about. That's how horrendous a start this got off to.
When Fat Joe was on stage and said that blacks and Latinos started hip hop, and a lot of people got mad at him.
What do you mean? I'm lost.
There was a pushback saying that, you know, Latinos were not part of the initial hip hop, you know, when it first started, which I disagree with.
Well, wasn't a lot of Latinos like Crazy Legs and them like break dancing and stuff like that? That's a part of the culture.
Grandmaster Caz had a Puerto Rican dude in his crew. Like, yeah, it was.
So you all can hear right here basically the same debunked talking points. Nothing new, nothing groundbreaking. There is no knockout punch. There isn't anything that hasn't already been debunked and dismissed. Nothing at all. Same stuff you've been hearing. Same stuff you've been hearing. That's all. Nothing new here, by the way. Nothing new. All the same names that once you go into in depth about it, you understand it's like this isn't about who was standing by holding our milk crates with the records. This isn't about who came into the thing later. This is about who built it. So here goes DJ Vlad. And by the way, he's going to talk himself into a corner here in just a moment.
Disagree with.
Well, wasn't a lot
hip hop, you know, when it first started, which I disagree with.
Well, wasn't a lot of Latinos like Crazy Legs and them like break dancing and stuff like that? That's a part of the culture.
Grandmaster Caz had a Puerto Rican dude in his crew. Like, yeah, it was a whole thing. But I think that there's recently been sort of a pushback by people, you know, like foundational Black Americans who feel that this is, you know, because I got the same thing. I remember when I interviewed Eneli Chapa, who's Jamaican, right? And I said, oh, you know, did you know that Kool Herc is Jamaican? And when he first started DJing, he took some of the sensibilities of you know, Jamaican dance hall. You know
I think
what I'm saying?
Everybody's going to have an opinion on hip hop.
Right. But what I was saying, people got mad at me saying like, no, hip hop's has nothing to do with Jamaica. It's just Black Americans. And I'm like,
Okay, and as you all know, that's been debunked and dismissed a while ago, but Vlad is desperately holding on. What's your dog in the fight, Vlad? What's your dog in the fight? You got this Russian fella here. I don't know I think he might be Jewish. You got this Russian fella sitting up here. Vlad, why are you so invested in trying to immigrate new factions into what we build? What's in it for you that you would be that concerned about it? What's in it for you? And what's in it for him is a whole bunch of black folk in the last couple of years who started saying Vlad's persona non grata. He's persona non grata, so like everybody else who has lost their in, he's trying to expand the market. So he's trying to do what colonizers have always done when they find themselves getting run out of one area. He's trying to establish a new beachhead somewhere else, even if it's a lie, even if it's not true. You have to understand, this is just one thing for him, even if it's not true. So of course he's going to sit up here and grab some crash dummy and tell him, okay, let me go ahead and put you out there, dude. And, you know what it is? Hey, I mean, blacks made this. And here's the crazy part about it here is Tony, I think y'all are saying he's Haitian. Tony is sitting up here. Well, let me go ahead and talk about Latinos. You know why? Because this is the whole point right here. The colonizers know the specific points of weakness. They know the specific points of weakness. They've studied their prey. They study the people they're going to exploit. So they realize a lot of these folks who are Haitian and whatnot in that New York area, they basically all see themselves as being part of a Latino culture, even though you're not Latino. That's the whole thing about it. Well, we're from that region, therefore I have a faux Latino identity. I've told you all about this before with Ron DeSantis in Florida, Jeff Bezos at Amazon. So I'm hoping now that I'm showing it to you like this, maybe it makes a little more sense to those of you who are like, Jason, maybe you're stretching there. Maybe you don't know what you're talking about. No, for those of you who've been there, this is what I mean by a faux Latino identity. So he's sitting up here fighting a fella of what y'all say of Haitian descent, fighting. And there's plenty of them up there. There's plenty of others up there who see themselves as part of this Caribbean Latino coalition. Well, we're right across the street from the Dominican Republic, the island of Hispaniola. We're right across the street from the Dominican Republic. So you go over there to Queens. Oh, I got to read your mail. You go over there to Queens where you've got your strongholds, your groups of the Haitians over there and the Jamaicans. Then you go to the Bronx and Long Island and there are your Dominicans hanging out there and whatnot. Now they're spilling over into Jersey. But what I'm saying is that when you're in these areas and whatnot, they identify as the specific place they came from first and then the geographic region second. But they don't identify as black first, second, or third. Do you understand that? They identify with the specific country of origin first. I'm Haitian, I'm Jamaican, I'm Cape Verdean, I'm Trinidadian, I'm Bozo the Clownian, I'm Steve Urkelin. And then they identify with the region. I'm from the Caribbean. I'm South American. I'm Mexican. Then they'll either identify as American or something else. Black will be pulling up the rear. Black is going to pull up the rear somewhere. But that's the real thing for you to remember. It's not pulling up the rear by accident. That's deliberately so.
And I said, did you know that Kool Herc is Jamaican? And when he first started DJing, he took some of the sensibilities of Jamaican dance hall.
I think everybody's going to have an opinion on hip hop.
Right. But what I was saying, people got mad at me saying like, no, hip hop's has nothing to do with Jamaica. It's just black Americans. And I'm like,
I couldn't say that because.
Okay, in the words of the late Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, you're entitled to your own opinion, but not your own facts. This isn't, and everybody's got an opinion on hip hop. We're talking about facts of hip hop. We're talking about historical, concrete, empirical facts. And they're talking about, well, that's your opinion right there, where it is. No, this is not an opinion.
I think everybody's going to have an opinion on hip hop.
Right. But what I was saying, people got mad at me saying, like, no, hip hop's has nothing to do with Jamaica. It's just Black Americans. And I'm like,
I couldn't say that because, I can't say hip hop. I could just say it was another genre of music. Like, I remember back in the days, like, my man Elijah, his father used to manage Shabba Ranks. So I met Shabba Ranks back in the days when he had Trailer Load of Girls.
Right.
We wouldn't say it's hip hop, but it was playing in the music. It was reggae. So, I mean, I'm open to all kind of music. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I don't just listen to hip hop. I listen to R&B. You know what I'm saying? I listen to all kind. I might listen to Nina Simone one day.
Okay, I'm open to all kinds of music. What the hell does that have to do with the accuracy of or inaccuracy of your statement about the origin of hip hop and who the hell created it? What the hell does that have to do with anything? I'm open to all kinds of music. Okay, so just because you are open to a bastardization and a dilution, just because you're open to it doesn't mean you get to sit up here and fall into our camp and say, hey, I'm open to dilution. You should be open. I'm open to being disinherited. You should be open to it too. Dude, you can listen. You're not going to sit up here and grab what we made and internationalize it because it's not yours. You see, he has no problem doing that because it's not his. Well, guess what? What that means is it is not yours to disenfranchise and disinherit. It isn't yours to do that with. Just because you don't have any standing or any footing in it doesn't mean you get to take what's ours and disinherit us from it. You don't get to come divorce us from what we made. I don't give a damn if you like listening to Nina Simone or Nat King Cole or Frankie Avalon. Listen to whatever you want to, but that doesn't become a rationale. I like all kinds of music, so you should give hip hop credit to all kinds of people. No, we don't. It's not the way that works. Just because our music is liked by a bunch of people doesn't mean that all of them have ownership. No, they don't. No, they don't. Now, the other thing I want to point out here is, as you could all see, he's very quick to come jumping up. And you got to be careful when Vlad shoves a microphone in your face with an agenda. You got to be careful about that.
Right.
You know what I mean? I might listen to Jill Scott. I might, you know what I'm saying? I might go to some old Lauryn Hill. Like, I'm just a music guy. Mm-hmm. I might play the Gap Band. Because I told you, my man was a DJ, so it's like I was a DJ. Back in the days, I used to go to all the parties with Grandmaster Vic. Sometimes Dog Time might pop out. We used to go to Jamaica Avenue by Ron G number 10. People don't really know what hip-hop is. Like, for people that know hip-hop, they know what Ron G number 10 is.
Right.
This is before Clue.
Yeah.
When we used to go to Hot Wax, rest in peace to my man DJ Rough Hands. We used to go to Hot Wax.
So what they do is they come and tell you, you don't know what hip hop is. Do you understand that? He just, see, the problem is, for any of you who doubt that Latino, you don't know what real hip hop is, what it is. You don't know what real hip hop is. Did you catch that? Did you catch that? He's going to sit here and tell us that we don't know what it is. So Vlad brought him here specifically because he knew he had a reliable flunky to sit here and toe the company line. We're the ones who are wrong all of a sudden. We're the ones who don't know anything. We didn't know what real hip hop was until Tony Yayo showed up and told us. Before then, we were just a bunch of, primitives scraping in the dirt. We didn't know what hip hop was until Tony Yayo deemed us worthy to descend from the mountain and tell us what real hip hop is. The gall.
You know what Ron G number 10 is. You know what hip hop is. Used to go to Jamaica Avenue by Ron G number 10. People don't really know what hip hop is. Like, for people that know hip hop, they know what Ron G number 10 is.
Right.
This is before Clue.
Yeah.
When we used to go to Hot Wax, rest in peace to my man DJ Rough Hands. We used to go to Hot Wax and he'll buy the newest record. He'll buy the Wu-Tang instrumental. Shout to Wu-Tang, because I love them guys. I know they might not like me, but I love them guys. But we used to go do that. So I know about hip hop. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we know, like, we studied this. Like, when we wasn't on the block, we went straight to the turntables. My man will go straight to Hot Wax. We'll buy the new Clue.
Okay, now we were just talking about who's responsible for the origins of these things. And did you hear what he said? Wu-Tang Clan. I didn't know Wu-Tang was doing their thing back in the 70s, y'all. I didn't know that. I just learned something. So Wu-Tang Clan was kicking it with the dudes back in the day in the 70s? Really? That's what was going on? Okay. I just learned something. Were they in preschool or elementary, Tony?
We'll buy the new Dog Time. We'll buy the new Dirty Harry. I've been in parties with Grandmaster Vic. So, like, parties get shot up, there was no CDJs. There was 20 crates.
Right.
My man had 20 crates. We done been in every party. Shout to DJ Goldfingers. Shout to Hardcore Superfly. Shout to the Rockaway Twins. Grandmaster Vic. Tape Master.
How many times is he going to say Grandmaster Vic? Just out of curiosity, how many times is he going to say that? I'm just wondering, just for my edification, how many times is he going to say Grandmaster Vic, by the way? Because he's name dropped that thing about 3 or 4 times. I'm just curious, how many times are you going to say it? We heard you the first 3 times. You were real good friends. I get it. Okay, dude. How many times is he going to say that? I'm just curious. So I want you all to understand, when I talk tonight about tonight's program about black nations with a white king, everybody is here to tell us what we're supposed to be doing. We have been deemed too dangerous and too unstable to be able to decide these things for ourselves. So other people have decided they're going to step in and tell us what we need to think all the way down the line. And now it's proceeded to the point of DJ Vlad has come slithering out of his hole in the ground, serpent fangs and all, to say, by the way, black folk don't know what they made. Black folk don't know what they made or what they're doing. You need me. Hey, you need me to come in here and tell you what you're doing right here, man. See, that right there is the problem, man. I mean, that's what you need me here for. Yep. I'll tell you one more thing. DJ Vlad don't get up there and ask all these Fed questions when he's talking to these mafiosos and these fellows from the Aryan Brotherhood and stuff. He doesn't sit up and ask a whole bunch of beefing questions and a whole bunch of Fed questions. He doesn't do all that. I saw when he talked to Sammy the Bull, he wasn't sitting up asking a bunch of crazy questions with Sammy the Bull and these other folk. He wasn't doing none of that. He wasn't trying to figure out who he beefing with or nothing, by the way. I just wanted to throw that in there. When he talks to these white folk, he doesn't ask a bunch of Fed questions. He asks about stuff that happened 20 and 30 and 40 years ago, but he ain't really sitting up here trying to stir up no mess today. I just couldn't help but notice there's a quantitative difference when he talks to them folks. So I just wanted to go ahead and I felt I would be remiss if I didn't mention that, but in any case, you might disagree, you might think I have it wrong, in which case the telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933, your personal access code to the blackest program in America. The only one of a kind on planet Earth today, and of course, you are always welcome to join us. You are definitely invited to do so. I want to thank everyone, and I do mean everybody who has contributed to support tonight's program here on PayPal, Cash App, or Super Chat. Thank you very much for your support. We appreciate that. And we are talking tonight about the necessity of us understanding that people have a vested interest in guiding what we think about, guiding where we go, not just in America, but around the world, which is why it has been so essential for us to get everybody on code. It is absolute insanity to see people behaving or acting in any other way. It is absolutely insane, which is why we've had a crackdown on off-code behavior. We've had a crackdown on off-code behavior because everybody is trying to steer what we think. They're trying to steer what we feel. They're trying to steer where we go. Nobody is sitting on the outside letting us have this conversation amongst ourselves. Understand something. We started having a conversation about what it meant to be who we are as descendants of slaves, aboriginals, freemen. In America, we had these conversations. We were having it amongst ourselves. And next thing you know, every damn body else has jumped in now with all 4 feet to tell us what we don't understand and what we don't get. Now they're here to tell us about what we're wrong about. Stuff that we created and telling us what we're wrong about. So we're going to go ahead and go to the phones here. I want you to go ahead and give us a call. The telephone number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Let me go ahead and get caller from area code 757. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello. This is James J. calling from Virginia Beach, Virginia.
All right, James J., what's on your mind?
Jason, the interesting thing to me is when we refer to ourselves as black, according to the actual Black's legal dictionary, black refers to colored races in general. It doesn't have a specific reference to us as being the as Malcolm X pointed out, aborigines of this land. And that's very important to me, that we understand that we are descendants of people that were from this continent from the beginning. We don't have to worry ourselves so much about whatever the culture was in Africa, because the currents and the oceans do not even run that way. It was a lot of things made up about that so-called Mid-Atlantic Passage and things of that nature. We have to do a little bit more research and build ourselves up a little bit more with our information. That would help kind of in the overall situation. So in reality, the rest of the world has a way that they look at us. Like Egyptians are tired of us coming over there making claims to the pyramids way over there, especially when we have our own pyramids right here that we don't really even acknowledge. If we really understood the situation, we have people right here in this continent that are saying that we don't have in Central America.
May retain my liquids here
for
you
one put the banjo up on me? I'm
like to continue the redundance of my quote-unquote intestinal tract. See, because to preclude on the issue of world domination would only circumvent, circumcise the revelation that reflects the aphrodisiac symptoms which now perpetrates the Jericho's activation. So, do not misinterpret the chauvinistic
to the United Negro Scholarship Fund.
So that's how you
Because a
take
mind
what I'm saying.
is a terrible
I thought
thing to
this was for
develop
intellectual
without
thought.
Allow me.
This isn't coonery buffoonery that I'm speaking here. This is intellectual thought.
Thank
I thought
you.
that's what the show was about.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
For calling in
thank you
tonight.
too, my man.
I didn't get it, or at least didn't get it enough. Caller from area code 412. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from? Caller from area code 412. Put the crack pipe down. You're on live.
Hi, Jason. How are you? I'm doing good. My name is Renee. I'm calling from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay, Renee. It sounds like Renee is out there walking the track. If I was interrupting you during the stroll, I don't want that to happen.
I was just astonished why he calling you and telling you what you need to do and how to research.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, you the one fumbling with the phone. So I didn't know if Charlie Slick or Sweetback was fighting you over the phone about to smack you up, and it's like, wait a minute, baby, I need to take this phone call. So if I'm taking you away from working right now, I don't want you to get smacked up on the phone. It wouldn't go good.
Yeah, but Jason, you are spitting truth tonight. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. But I was astonished by that first caller who called you with that crazy talk. It's like, Jason did this every Saturday. He knows history. He does it every Sunday. But my question is to you is, when we're talking about that movie and they're talking about Lupita was supposed to be a part of the movie, but Lupita backed out because of how she felt, and Viola went and did the movie, and these other immigrant women went in the movie and said this movie was for Black women. And then Tiffany Cross said something crazy today on her channel, talk about, you got to support. I'm like, we're not supporting it. Nina, what's her name? The girl, the Nina chick out there in Ohio. Keep talking about go support it. We're not supporting that movie. That movie is not for us. We know the history of the Dami tribe. We know what happened. So I understand why these Black women told us to support a white-made movie.
Well, look, the white media, there's a reason they hired them. These are their pet Negroes. She is literally on the payroll. Literally. She has no connection to none of them MSNBC plantation Negroes have any connection to Black society. None of them on CNN. None of them have any clout. None of them have any support. None of them have any respect. So it's okay for them to toss her out there. Tiffany Cross didn't have any street credibility with Black folk before she got to MSNBC. She doesn't have any now. So she has nothing to gain, nothing to lose.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight.
Thank you.
She's got nothing to gain, nothing to lose. Or at least she got nothing to lose and everything to gain. I mean, what does she have to lose by looking foolish? I mean, it's not like she's going. There are no crowds or throngs of people talking about, boy, I wish Tiffany Cross was coming through. I wish Tiffany Cross was coming by here. Nobody's saying that. Call of Miracle 229. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Rod, calling from Valdosta, Georgia.
Rod from Valdosta, what's on your mind?
Good evening, Brother Jason. We spoke a few weeks ago, and you mentioned to me kind of like how they want to symbolize this, like kind of like a Halloween show. And I seen it clearly looking at Dateline, I think it was, and they was talking about the Queen's coffin is heading down the street. The Queen's coffin is heading there. They're going to take the Queen's coffin until there hundreds of thousands a month mourning over the Queen's coffin. I'm like, hundreds of thousands of people. Do they know what these people are saying? Y'all crying over an empty box. They didn't say a body, a coffin, an empty box. This symbolism thing is real. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes to religious. It kind of goes to religious proportions when you think about it. It kind of proceeds into religious proportions when you kind of think about it in that way. It's like, oh, we're taking this to a whole new level, aren't we? Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller mirror code 904. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good evening, Jason. My name is Daryl from Chicago.
Daryl from Chicago. What's on your mind?
Jason, this broadcast is off the charts. All I can say, God bless you for doing the research. And that guy, Tony Ayo, that there, if he sounds like what's the guy Oswald Bates you just put up with the other caller? They're just as bad. They right in the same boat because he can't. He's not a very intelligent guy. You can tell he's illiterate because he can't answer questions. He stutters and all that other stuff. But again, this broadcast is really showing people what's going on. And I'm glad you're informing them and keeping it going. We've known this for a long time, and we've watched all these things. I listened to a lot of all the things that have been said and all the things that have been done over the years. And God bless us having a media that steps up to the plate like this. This is truly what's needed.
I mean, we have thousands of people in here right now, and there's a reason why that matters. When you've got an independent apparatus where you speak to your people directly, just understand these folks at the top, they know it. They know it. They know what's going on.
Yes, they do.
They're worried about it for a reason. They're worried for a reason.
That's right. That's why you see what you see. That's right.
All right. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 614. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good evening, Mr. Black. This is Justin from Baltimore.
Justin from Baltimore, what's on your mind?
So, yeah, I've listened to DJ Vlad, his Sammy the Bull interview. He never mentions the five families. And I also watched his China Mac interview. He didn't say anything about the triads, which was just really interesting to me. And the second point about the crying of the royal family, I ran down the Commonwealth list, and I also noticed there's a lot of overlap between the U.S. extradition treaties as well as the Commonwealth, and it seems like they kind of like talk to each other just to make sure there's no loose ends there. What are your points on that?
Yeah, I mean, basically these are templates that were used. When it comes to slavery, they used each other for a template for being able to execute that. When it comes to the so-called emancipation of these areas, or at least extraditing them from being, extracting them from being part of their systems, yeah, these are templates that are used. Because what you're looking at are two Western nations and two Western cultures that are really looking to run parallel and concurrent. Let's be very, very clear. When these folks go, quote unquote, to war with each other, it ain't like with black folk. You know, black folk is eternal and this, that, and the other is hammer and tong. And boy, I'm telling you, it's the end of the damn world. With white folk, brother, wars are literally their way of settling issues.
Right.
We don't understand that. We don't understand that. If these white politicians, when they talk about each other, that's just a rap beef. That's just a rap beef. Think about that for a few moments. When they do that, that's like rappers beefing, y'all. It's for show, and we don't get it. We think they really mean it the way we would mean it. Let me go ahead and get caller from area code 804. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, I'm just saying, you weren't following with the phone, so I didn't know if Charlie Slick or Sweetback was fighting you over the
Y'all, this nigga is 10 minutes late. They got a 10-minute delay on this. Not only is this bastard not paying attention, they on a 10-minute delay. They listening to some stuff I said 10 minutes ago. This is a call from 10 minutes ago. Ooh, we just now catching up. I've had 2 calls since then. They must be tuned in from Nicaragua. Is this one of the passport bros? Area code 804. What is that? Petersburg, Virginia? Something like that? Around that area? Let me get caller from area code 504. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
What's going on, brother Jason? This is G from New Orleans.
G from New Orleans. What's on your mind?
Hey, brother. I'll try and be brief because I know you got a lot of calls tonight. But I want to point out something, especially what you had that we can play in that interview with that buck dancer and being interviewed by that snake Vlad. First off, if you go and look at just the history of hip hop, if you can go back and look, it starts even with James Brown. James Brown, Gil Scott-Heron, and even before that, some of the gospel singers. So that puts to rest any and all of this talk about all of these other groups other than Foundation of Black Americans who started hip hop. James Brown is the most sampled artist in history. His song, The Funky Drummer, which had Clyde Stubblefields' drum beat, is sampled by every hip hop artist, and it's even called the heart of hip hop. So that ends that debate. The other thing I want to, if I could talk about this Woman King movie, I'm glad that a lot of people are coming out against it, you know, speaking on it. And, you know, if they knew the history of the Wahome tribe, first off, those female kings, or as they call themselves, the Woman King, which I think defeats the purpose even of that name. I don't think the kingdom even lasted long. You could correct me if I'm wrong. But it didn't last long, if I'm not mistaken.
Understand something. Propaganda is for the purposes of distorting history, not for the purposes of establishing it, not for the purposes of establishing accuracy. The movie 300 was very entertaining. I've always been a fan of Frank Miller's graphic novels and his comic book work. He revolutionized Batman. The Batman that you have today is a direct result of Frank Miller's work. Daredevil, direct result of Frank Miller's work. 300 was an interesting graphic novel. It was certainly wild and entertaining, but it's a movie, not a documentary. But the way that these people are defending it, you would swear it was a documentary. That's what you would think it was. You would swear that this was a work of empirical academic perfection, as opposed to this is loosely based on some events and we're glossing over some stuff here. So here's the real thing. The real thing is right now you're supposed to be in an era where they just feed you things. You're supposed to just ingest it, whatever it is. You're not supposed to ask any questions. You're supposed to be a faithful, dutiful consumer. George Carlin talked about this right before his death, that, you know, that's what he's saying, that people don't think anymore. They've been bought off by iPhones and cable TV. And that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to think about any of this. They were supposed to put this movie out and you're supposed to just consume it. That's it. You're not supposed to question anything. You're supposed to just take it at face value. So they're like, I'll be damned. Let me tell you what a revolt in the slave quarters looks like. A revolt in the slave quarters looks like, you know what? You know who the homie are, right? Let's ask a few more questions and we're having a conversation amongst ourselves. And they're like, wait a minute. This was not approved. This was not approved. You're not supposed to be discussing or thinking about these things in and of themselves. You're not supposed to research anything. You're not supposed to ask any questions. We put Viola Davis in there, right? I mean, don't you want some of your folks in there? We ain't all that, right? And you're not supposed to ask any questions. So welcome to the new day. The most dangerous thing that's happening right now is a conversation. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 319. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, what's up? This is Adonis from Des Moines.
Adonis from Des Moines, what's on your mind?
Well, the first thing I want to say is, as far as Tony Yayo goes, I mean, as far as I know, 50 Cent runs his life. You know what I'm saying? So this man is used to giving stuff away, and that's how he's learned to acquire things, is by giving away, himself, his music. This guy rhymes in nursery rhymes. That's what he's famous for, is taking nursery rhymes and then, replacing fun with gun and whatnot. As far as this movie goes, I really feel like it's extra offensive with this whole CRT situation, because it's almost like, don't study your own history, we'll tell you what the history is. And furthermore, I think this movie's coming at an interesting time, when a lot of foundational Black Americans are getting together. Now they're trying to get that Wakanda moment out of this movie again, where they're, trying to press this whole Pan-African thing. And it's really just pathetic, and we all see through it. That's all I have to say. Be one.
Black First, thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 216. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Mark from Cleveland.
Mark from Cleveland, what's on your mind?
All righty. Jason, I want to thank you very much and thank the Black media for shooting this crap down. We went through this before with that Harriet movie. And we need to treat this Dahomey movie the same way. We need to disregard it. And this is not the last film that's going to come out and try to distort our history. I'll land my plane on that, Mr. Jason, and be one.
Black First, brother, thank you very much for giving us a call here. Now, I want you all to understand something here. This movie has a budget of $50 million. Let's be very clear about that. This movie has a budget of $50 million. $50 million. So they got high hopes here. They didn't put a huge budget into this by Hollywood standards, but for those of you who were wondering, this is against a production budget of $50 million. So there's not a whole lot of room for error. And there's not a whole lot of tolerance for risk here. When you got $50 million on the line, it's not a Hollywood blockbuster, but it ain't chump change either. That's for a reason. That's for a reason. Call from area code 415. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Ron calling from Jacksonville, and I endorse that film. No, I'm kidding. This is Don from San Francisco.
All right, Don, you was about to get slam dunked on, nigga, but go ahead.
Endorse that film.
I was about to clown your ass. I knew who it was. I was about to clown the hell out of you, Don. I was about to say, okay, Don, I got you fitted for some coon boots over here after all these years. I was about to clown the hell out of you, Don.
Man, see, the problem is they don't want us to read books. That's why they don't have that in the Florida system, and they miseducated us. Just on a couple things, just so if people really know the history of the Dahomey and who they are going further back in history, they would also know that they have no future. They aren't spoken about in history or in going forward in history. But the other thing with the you got to go, why are they spending so much money on that film? And then they get their other little paid agents in here. All this stuff is distraction, man. And I know you know what I'm talking about. It's distraction for the real moves they're making.
Well, they don't do anything without a purpose. You got to understand. They sink money into this. They didn't do anything without a purpose. It's here because these things take a lot of money. They take a lot of time. If they're doing it for a reason, especially in a midterm election year. Especially in the midterm election year, right. Nate Parker had to pass the damn hat. He had to pass the damn hat to get, $10 or $15 million. He had to pass the hat to do that. Sony and them just walked up to the plate and said, okay, we'll go ahead and make this. So they're letting you know that this is an investment. Now, it can't be an investment in filmmaking. That ain't what it is. And even though I think the Dahomey were around for 400 years or something like that, I want to say they were around right up until the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. If I don't miss my facts very much, I'm pretty sure they were around right up until the end of the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, turn of the century, and then you don't see anything after that. You don't see anything after that. So why in the world are we going to this place at this time to pluck out these individuals and to give them their own fictional narrative, because this isn't even what was happening, to be totally honest. So now, okay, you can say creative license, but here's my problem. They're not defending this movie as a creative license. By definition, you cannot defend creative license except to say, do not take this seriously. That's the whole point of using the words creative license. Creative license means don't take this seriously. But I see a whole bunch of white folk jumping up defending the film on serious grounds. Now, that's the problem. You're defending this too vigorously to say that your defense is creative license. It's not creative license. You want us to take this seriously. Mm-hmm. Now, you can't sit up here and say that the Dahomey were slave traders and then say, but the film portrays them as being against slave trading. So you shouldn't have a problem with the Dahomey in this film. That's what you're saying. Well, never mind if this is a complete distortion of, a complete fiction of what actually occurred. The Dahomey were slave traders. There wasn't anybody fighting the damn thing. Well, in our film, there are Dahomey who are against it, but this is complete fiction. Therefore, you have no reason to be defending it. If we sit up here and say we don't want a popularization of a fiction about slavery, because what you're doing is you're using the words Dahomey and then linking individuals to being anti-slavery when they were not. And that's what people will walk away with. This is more of that white supremacy. Oh, it's just a joke. Well, don't worry. This is not a documentary. This is a creative license. But the effect you're walking away with is real, and they know that.
Exactly. I mean, the visualization put to sound leaves an impression upon the mind. I wanted to ask you one question. Have you heard of, and I'm sure you have, the right to rule?
In which context?
In its general term, right to rule has to do with divine rulership upon the earth, as in terms of a kinghood,
right? The right of the right of power or the right of will. Yes.
Yeah. I had one teacher that was going in on the stuff, and so I just ordered these 2 books, and I can't wait to get them to read them. Man. It's called The Missing Link, and it's volume 1 and volume 2. I can't wait to get those. But at any rate, man, that's what these people's problem are. That's why they got all these colonies and so forth, and their commonwealth and all that, because they think they have the right to rule in the earth.
Well, yeah,
Anyway,
I mean
thank you for your time,
when
sir.
you start
Appreciate
talking
all
about
your hard work.
manifest destiny, thank you very much for giving us a call. When you talk about manifest destiny, the right of power, what they're saying is that if God let us subjugate you, that's what it's supposed to be. I wouldn't be able to subjugate you if God didn't let me. So if I'm subjugating you, this was God's plan. It ain't mine. I'm just a vessel of the Father. So yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of things that people have used to justify and rationalize that to themselves. Back to 300. Now, if you all remember, in the movie 300, there were a number of contradictions. The Spartans, we are free men here, not slaves, but the Hellites were your slaves. The Spartans had slaves. The Spartans were a slave-owning society. That didn't make it into the film, now did it? That part wasn't prominently featured in the film, now was it? When they sat up here and portrayed King Leonidas and the Spartans, they didn't sit up here and show the Helots, now did they? So you'll watch the film with them talking about being free men and we don't do slavery and this, that, and the other, but the reality is, yeah, they did. Then you have King Leonidas talking about the Athenians, calling them philosophers and boy lovers. The Spartans engaged in all the same behaviors that the Athenians did. The Spartans engaged in the same behavior, but if you watched Zack Snyder's movie, you never would know that. The movie is specifically having King Leonidas insulting the Athenians as philosophers and boy lovers. Meanwhile, wait a minute, dude, what about them kids y'all got back there in the tent? What about them? Oh, I mean, we don't love them. We just kind of hug on them. Okay, can you put some clothes on when you hug them? Can you do that? This is what I mean. You'll walk away from the film with this crazy view of reality because you're assuming, here's the problem. When you watch these movies, you are making the assumption that some of it must be rooted in fact, other than just the usage of their names, that there must be some of the actions or activities that you're seeing occurring that must be rooted in fact or reality. What they're doing is telling you, yeah, I mean, it's not all true. Now you're left to sit here and wonder, well, what's accurate and what isn't? What are you talking about? And then you find out key parts and key elements of it you may be deceived about. You're assuming it's accurate, and in reality, you're deceived about it. So it becomes this treasure hunt for what's real. And what we're saying is, yeah, we draw the line, and when you start having slave traders, no, throw the whole damn thing out. Caller from area code 817, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, this is D from Houston.
D from Houston, what's on your mind?
Yeah, man. In terms of Vlad, man, I don't know how he got in his lane, man, because this was Fab Five Freddy's lane right here, man. He did all the interviews with the hip-hop artists and stuff. I don't know how Vlad weaseled his way into this position, man, but he never, every time he interviews a drug dealer, he always asks him, he tries to run that guilt trip, like, are y'all guilty about, selling drugs or what have you? But he never does that to the Italians. He never asked them not one time if they're guilty about doing the things they've done or, the casinos they opened. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little game that he's running.
No, I'll take it even further than that. You have an apparatus that enables this, because after R. Kelly got convicted, they were talking about they didn't want his channels on YouTube anymore because they didn't want him profiting off of it. Meanwhile, I'll be damned, Sammy the Bull got a big ass YouTube channel. Are you kidding me? That fella killed more people than cancer. And he's got a big ass YouTube channel. Are you kidding? So R. Kelly can't be here, but the multiple mob hitman can? Really? And by the way, he's not the only one. John A. Light has a YouTube channel now. I mean, all the mafia mobsters have got YouTube channels talking about, well, yeah, I mean, we don't want them profiting off their crimes. Now, let me tell you how I killed these three guys over here. I mean, that's literally what's going. That is literally what's like. Sam the Bull's channel. Like, I don't know if they're setting this up for TV or whatever. They're calling it seasons. So apparently they're planning to do big things. I guess they want to make a DVD set or sell it to Netflix or whatever. But he's sitting up here talking about these are all the folk he killed. This is how he did it. I mean, now he's going into extensive detail to the point that I question if some of this is real. Some of it sounds like it might be a little dramatized. But the real point is, I mean, they got, y'all go look it up. Sam the Bull's got a YouTube channel, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, hundreds of millions of, tens of millions of views at this point, going into withering detail. Withering detail. So you're dealing with an apparatus here that is telling black folk, well, we can't, basically it's the feds is what it is. We're here to catch you, to trap you, all kinds of stuff. You got prosecutors around the damn country listing the folks' songs. Sammy is admitting the stuff now that he didn't even tell the feds about. I'm just saying he's saying all kinds of things. Why is nobody on his YouTube channel going over everything? It's like, oh, let bygones be bygones, really. So the folks who talk to Vlad, brother, all I can figure is them dudes ain't did enough jail time. That's all I can figure. If you're talking to Vlad, I'm assuming you just ain't did enough time. Whoever you are, you just didn't do enough. If you're black, I'm sorry. If you're black and talking to DJ Vlad, I just figure you ain't did enough time. I just figure you don't really believe you're going to get a life sentence. You don't really believe them folks going to do it to you. That's all I can imagine. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, but in terms of that movie, I just want to say this right quick, man. It's like they really get their nuts off, man, trying to position black women in front of black men, by making them making them look weak, and you know, it's sad. But anybody African American that supports that movie, man, you know, I don't know what to say, man. So be one, brother.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. But I mean, you say, understand something. That's what this is all about. This is about divide and conquer here. The whole reason for sending out DJ Vlad to sit up here and toe this company line is that this is what I told you all last week. This is about seeing if you can create a schism. How many black folk out there are still slavishly devoted to ass kissing DJ Vlad, either because you grew up as children or whatever, and see if you can turn the knuckleheads and know-nothings against the people who actually have facts and reality on their side. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. Just see if there's anything left to be milked out of it. And if they can do that. That's all there is. That's all there is. Simple as that. So just understand where that's coming from. Let me get called from area code 773. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, JB, this is AK from Chicago.
AK from Chicago, what's on your mind?
You know, I just wanted to talk to you about just like a few things that like I'm concerned about, particularly with like this hip hop thing. It looks like everyone is trying to steal and take our culture away. Although we have all the receipts for like the rapping, the break dancing, we have films, we have Piggy Martin, we have documentaries that have been done on Muhammad Ali called Ali Raps. We have all these things, but people are walking over dead bodies in order to push their point forward, in order to push their agenda forward. And I'm trying to see, like, what do you think about this? Because what I feel is that people are coming over, not respecting us, culturally appropriating our stuff, interloping into Black American culture that already existed in the South, North, East, West, and the Bronx well before they even got there. And then when we asked them to produce receipts to show us who was rapping, who was breakdancing, who was doing graffiti, they have none of these things. And one of the main people who are doing who's doing this is Busta Rhymes. You know, he's saying that Jamaicans created hip hop, which we know that they didn't. And he's saying that they created it through toasting. So toasting is something that Jamaicans got from Black Americans through jive talk, okay? And this is talked about by Clemente Dodd. Clemente Dodd is considered one of the fathers of Jamaican music. And I feel like they're trying to come back and sell us something that we already created and we already had, which I feel that is cultural appropriation. And I'm just trying to see, like, how do we protect ourselves as foundational Black Americans?
We're doing it right now. We're doing it right now. For the previous century, black folk were quiet and we were perfect. The previous generations thought it was a strategy by having an open door policy to everybody else that there would eventually, ultimately, someday be reciprocity. That was their strategy. That if we make everything we do open to everybody else and basically allow them to molest it however they want to, then that eventually they would give us reciprocity. We open the doors to them and eventually they'll open the doors for us. We just need to make the first move. Well, how did that work out for you? It didn't. So just understand that is what the tired, played, dull strategy has been up until this point. What we're saying is, yeah, paperwork check, homie. Everybody trying to come through. We need to see your paperwork. Well, you have to understand, we Latinos, we built the place. No. Bad paperwork. Bad paperwork. So they're not used to that. Up until now, we've been giving away the damn farm. Up until now, that's what we've been doing. Everything has been a race to integrate everything. And in the process, once you integrate it, the next thing you know, first step is integration, next step is moving you out. That's what it becomes. And we're just the first generation saying, okay, no more of that. So you say, how do we protect it? What we're doing right now, there's a reason that DJ Vlad and all the rest of these folk are going nuts about it, because they're not going nuts about it because they didn't hear what we said. They're going nuts about it because it's everywhere. There's a reason that BET is bringing Fat Joe on as the host of the damn awards. Then white folk are letting you know, hey, y'all are going to understand something, folks. I mean, I just talked about this last damn week. There's a reason they're bringing Fat Joe on. How are they doing this all at the same time? Fat Joe, DJ Vlad, all these people talking about this right now? That's not coincidence. They're letting you know the plan has hit a hitch. Too many of you are talking in an opposing direction. The plan has hit a hitch. Jason, what's the plan? The plan is to divorce us from the greatest cultural achievement since the light bulb. That's the plan. Rap and hip hop has changed culture forever. It has changed the way that mankind communicates through music forever. You're not going to be able to jump up in the year 2500 and divorce us from that. You can't have 200 or 300 years of it being firmly established that we created this and then come up one day and divorce us from it. Why do they need to divorce us from it? Because as the dominant society becomes a minority within things, they need to be able to control this stuff. It's about controlling the intellectual property. You can't wait until you're 30% of the damn population and then talk about controlling it. You got to get that train moving now. As audacious as it seems, as incredible as it seems, you got to move this train now. You can't wait another 100 years to edge black folk out the way. You got to do like you did with like you did with rock and roll, and then what you try to do with jazz. You got to strong arm them out the way now. If you want your future generations to be able to come in and basically what they're trying to do is like in football, knock the ball free so there's a fumble. So there's a scramble for the ball. That's what they're trying to do. You can't prove that black folk weren't there, but if you can do just enough to make it disputable that they weren't alone, now you've created a scramble for the ball, as long as black folk don't have a firm control of it. Right now, we got a firm control of it. This is the effort to start edging that out. So we'll use the Latinos, and then next thing you know, over the next 25 years, the Latinos will start identifying as what? White. Now, understand, if I'm making all the societal connections, remember, before the 1970 census, they were classified as white. Now they're a separate group, but if it comes to their advantage and to their benefit again, because we already know that they identify as white already. On paperwork, they might put Hispanic white or Hispanic non-white, but we already know that in common language amongst each other, commonly they already identify as white. It's only going to take a little. Many people like myself have already predicted that's where it's going to go back there again. Next thing you know, you've given that to them. Only now the dominant society will be more than thrilled to identify them as white if you can say that these white people created rap and hip hop. Once they get you to loosen up that headlock, loosen up that stranglehold just a little bit. And then next thing you know, these white folk are running it.
So I got one more question before I go. What do you think about us constructing like an ethnic enclave? I know Dr. Claude Anderson was talking about like Blacktown.
Your ethnic enclave is beneath your feet, is the first thing I'm going to tell you. Jewish people don't worry about things like that, and other groups much smaller don't worry about things like that. However, we've already got plenty of them already. You've already got plenty of places where concentrations of black people. The problem is the agenda. You cannot have an agenda if you do not have an economic center, period, point blank, end of discussion. Dr. Anderson was trying to establish an economic beachhead in Detroit. But that's something you can, in reality, that doesn't require hundreds of millions of dollars of investment, but it does require some serious people. But you've already got black enclaves in Detroit, in DC, in Atlanta, in Dallas, in Baton Rouge, in New Orleans. I can go down the list. In South Los Angeles, in Oakland. It's not a matter of getting a group of us together. Can you get a group of us on code? Now, if you can do that, understand something. If you do that, everything else comes together. Once you're all on the same page about why you're here, everything else comes together. That's the difference. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 636. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Laverne from St. Louis.
Okay, Laverne from St. Louis. What's on your mind?
Hello, Jason. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the Caribbean segment that you spoke about earlier in the show. I had to straight pull out my my document sets from my history class and read under the Commonwealth and Empire. There's a segment in there talking about the naval strategist Alfred Mahon and his book, Influence of Sea Power Upon History, and how it was supposed to be the single most influential work on foreign policy and military strategy. If I could just read these two lines, it says, coincidentally with our own extension of the Pacific Ocean, which for so long had a good international claim to its name, that sea has become more and more the scene of political development, of commercial activities and rivalries in which all great powers, ourselves included, have a share. Through these causes, Central and Caribbean America, now intricately unimportant, are brought in turn to great prominence as constituting the gateway between the Atlantic and Pacific. And they go on to talk about how it was part of the Caribbean is important to the colonies because of military strategy and power. I think it's just time to turn off these movies and some of this music crap and get serious. And the reason that this is important is because of the times we are living in with the war between Ukraine and Russia conflict and how that, could affect us.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. She's giving us a lecture in admiralty law. Let me get caller from country code 551. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, what's up, Jason? It's Jeff in Brazil.
All right, Jeff, what's on your mind, brother?
Hawaii. Yes. As far as Vlad TV goes, he comes from a long line of Russian Jewish people coming to America and exploiting black people. It started with the Harlem Globetrotters. I used to think that the Harlem Globetrotters was owned by black people. No, it was owned by a Jewish man from Russia named Abe Saperstein. He owned the Harlem Globetrotter. He was the owner. After that, in the Ray Charles movie, you had the Russia Atlantic Records was owned by Turkish Jewish people. And then you had Chess Records, which Beyonce was in the movie, another Russian person, Jewish person who came over, who, took advantage of black people. And now he comes from his Vlad TV.
I mean, you don't see any black folk going anywhere trying to tell Mexicans about mariachi music and who made that. We don't even really holler at folk about salsa, although we probably should be. We don't get involved in any of those things. Nothing at all. Soon as we start having this conversation with ourselves, here comes every damn body to tell us what we need to think. We have never said anything to Jewish people about bar mitzvahs or nothing. We've never said anything to anybody. They talk amongst themselves. They have them arguments and debates. Okay, y'all do what you do. You don't see black people kicking in no doors anywhere to discuss those things. But when we start talking about something, all of a sudden, everybody wants to tell us what to think.
Yeah, so black people just need to be aware of these Russian Jewish people, a long lineage of them coming over and, coming in and, exploiting us. We got to wake up with stuff like that. From the Harlem Globetrotters, Abe Saperstein, until Vlad TV, and that's going back to like the 60s. So I'm out. Got to be aware of what's going on with these people coming over here, especially them Russian Jewish people, Chess Records, Atlantic Records, Harlem Globetrotters, and now Vlad TV. He's the latest one. And I'll land my plane right there.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. And like I say, definitely this idea that everybody else is qualified to speak on us and to talk on us and whatnot, that's the real issue there. That is the real issue. Let me get caller from area code 773. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, my name is Bobby. Calling from Chicago.
Okay, Bobby from Chicago, what's on your mind?
Yes. I was at work, and when the Queen died, it seemed like the Caribbean wanted the FBA to agree with them. And we was like, we don't give a damn. Y'all don't tell the Irish people, because Irish people at work was happy. They was with their brothers and sisters chatting Lizzie in the box. But they telling us that we should grieve for that wicked queen. And then also on hip-hop, we need to quit letting people in the cookout. Because they keep telling us who is the original hip-hoppers. And then they didn't check Eminem when he tried to diss an FBA rapper, Will Smith, even though I'm not a fan, in his songs. So I'm going to land my plane there. So FBA guys, quit giving our music away. Thank you.
Okay. Some folks have to get their issues dealt with here. In the chat room, Angela, you have 2 minutes to be on the phone, ma'am. You have 2 minutes to be on the phone. You have 2 minutes to get on the phone, so I suggest you go ahead and utilize that. Or don't. That works just as well also, but it's not a request. Let me be very, very clear about that. This is not a request for you. So that is an order. You have something to say, we're going to go ahead and give you a chance to do that, but that is not a request for you. You need to go ahead and give us a call since you have so much to say there. You have so much to say. She's in the chat room disputing things. So go ahead and give us a call on that. What was she waiting on? We'll give her a couple of minutes here to call in. If she doesn't, then we're going to go ahead and help her out permanently. So I'm going to recommend you go ahead and do that. Tonight, we're talking about how folks are trying to tell us what to think and who we are and where we are and what we are. That's important. When you have a generation of young black people who are hearing this and absorbing this, these are conversations that were not happening 10 years ago, 20 years ago. You were just ingesting whatever they were feeding. You were just swallowing whatever gruel was thrown down in front of you. Folks are not doing that anymore. It's a whole different situation now. They're not doing that anymore. Don't know what you're waiting on, Angela. The phone lines are open. We're waiting on you. The number is 646-787-1933, Angela. She's had a whole lot to say. Very, very interesting when they do that. Very, very interesting. She's had a whole lot of comments to make before now. Now she's being given an opportunity to call in and say something. They start hiding. Don't look now. Your fraudulence is showing. You see, if you were actually confident in what you were saying, you'd be putting that up front. You're not doing that. So just understand, when you don't actually have a point and you know you can't defend it, you try to troll. Let's also be clear about something else. Hollywood's on a troll right now. They're on a troll right now. They're on a troll. And there are a number of folk joining them in that wicked endeavor. You get the idea. You get the idea. Angela's saying things. She's saying things that she can't substantiate. So, Angela, you got 30 seconds to be on the phone line, ma'am. If you're not on the phone in 30 seconds, you'll be gone. What's your area code, Angela? Caller from area code 773. Is this Angela? Caller from 773. Last try.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, this Negro is calling from Neptune. Dude, get you a phone that didn't come out of a Cracker Jack box or a homeless shelter. He got one of them prison phones. You know, one of the ones right there, the one that doesn't have the back on and has the circuit board all open. So it's, all right, brother, he's calling us from solitary confinement. Hey, Jaden, I'm doing this 3 life sentences, but I wanted to call you and tell you about the homie. And slavery is akin to what I'm suffering down here. How many people you kill, brother? 8. But my point is, it's slavery. It's about the same when you think about it. All right, well, let's see if we can get your parole officer to help you out with that. Oh, you ain't keeping it real, brother. I gotta go on. Gotta go on. All right, folks, here, since Angela will not be joining us for the rest of her life, let me go ahead and lay down some negative vibes since she didn't want to call in for this. Perfectly fine. Let me go ahead and lay down some negative vibes on her right now. Oh, hell, what do you know? So it isn't just us on Twitter. I'll be damned. This is from Slate Magazine. Well, I'll be damned. This is from Slate Magazine. This isn't from Jason Black's Twitter page. This isn't from Tariq's Twitter page. This is from Slate.com. The Woman King softens the truth of the slave trade. The Dahomey had fierce female fighters. They also sold people overseas, by Ana Lucia Arroyo. Arroyo? If I'm butchering that, Anna, my apologies. It says The Woman King. Yes, this is for you, Angela, and for anybody else spouting her nonsense. You want to know why y'all look dumb? This is why. The Woman King, directed by Gina Prince Bythewood and written by Maria Bello and Dana Stevens, portrays the ancient West African kingdom of Dahomey, today's Republic of Benin, and its legendary all-women regiment, the Adoji. The film, which opens this weekend, is a vision of black female power, starring Viola Davis, Sheila Atim, Tuza Mabido, and Lashana Lynch. For the name there. Its promotional material blurbs a review from Variety that calls the movie, quote, the gladiator of our time, for those of you who remember Russell Crowe's Gladiator movie. But how does the Woman King handle part of Dahomey's history, the kingdom's involvement in the slave trade? At a time when the participation of African rulers and middlemen in the Atlantic slave trade gets described by Americans who want to divert attention from their own responsibility for the history of slavery as, quote, African complicity, this film's task is delicate indeed. Now, let me read that one more time. At a time when the participation of African rulers and middlemen in the Atlantic slave trade gets described by Americans who want to divert attention from their own responsibility for the history of slavery, you're talking about white supremacists, as African complicity, this film's task is delicate indeed. It's not the first time that Dahomey and its female military company have appeared in the big screen. In 1987, the movie Cobra Verde by German filmmaker Werner Herzog, based on the novel The Viceroy of Oida, 1980 by Bruce Chatwin, represented the powerful West African kingdom and briefly depicted its women warriors. The new movie is also set in Dahomey in 1823. But the central character is not a white slave trader as in Herzog's film, but rather Naniska, a West African woman. Played by Davis, this warrior woman is the head of the Adoji. These fighters were mainly recruited among the many dozens of royal wives of the king of Dahomey. European traders and travelers who visited the region as early as the 18th century referred to them as the Amazons, evoking the female fighters of Greek myth. Although the Adoji may have emerged in the 18th century, they probably started fighting in military campaigns in the 19th century, especially during the reign of King Gizo, played in the film by John Boyega. As part of Dahomey's army, they fought wars that, by that time in history, were waged with the main intent of producing prisoners to be sold into slavery in the Americas, especially to Brazil and Cuba. Let me read that one more time. As part of Dahomey's army, they, the Adoji, the women warriors Viola Davis and crew, they fought wars that, by that time in history, were waged with the main intent of producing prisoners to be sold into slavery in the Americas, especially to Brazil and Cuba. With its focus on the all-women regiment, the Woman King gets one thing right by representing Dahomey as a centralized and militarized kingdom, and not a tribe as popular movies tend to depict historical African states. The kingdom of Dahomey's origins can be traced to the 17th century, but its expansion started in the 18th century during the most intense period of the Atlantic slave trade. In 1727, Dahomey conquered the kingdom of Hueda, who lived along the coast and took control of the port city of Quida, inaugurating its active participation in the Atlantic slave trade. Historians estimated that nearly 1 million enslaved Africans were put on ships to the Americas in Ouida between 1659 and 1863. The port was the second largest supplier of African captives to the trade, behind only Luanda in today's Angola. King Gizo came to power in 1818, following a coup d'etat against his half-brother, King Adandazan. Boy, I'm sure Thanksgiving was awkward at their house. Pass the turkey dressing, you treacherous nigga. Okay. You all thought you thought family get-togethers were rough in your family. Let me tell you, it was hardcore over there. In 1823, when the film's action takes place, the British had already abolished their slave trade and were putting pressure on West African states and European and American countries such as Portugal, Spain, and Brazil to end their own. Brazil had declared independence from Portugal in 1822, but continued actively importing enslaved Africans, including from Ouida. Meanwhile, Dahomey had been paying tributes to the Kingdom of Oyo, a state located in today's southwestern Nigeria, since 1748. In 1823, under Gizo's rule, Dahomey fought a war against Oyo and eventually succeeded in ridding itself of the tributes. This is the action that's portrayed in the film. The first scene of the movie shows one of the raids led by the Dahomeyan army. The Adoji attack a village. In the movie, the women soldiers kill the men and spare the women. In reality, more probably, the soldiers of the Dahomeyan army, both women and men, would take the healthy, younger villagers as prisoners and walk them to Dahomey's capital, Abomey. The film quickly suggests the various possible fates of these prisoners by showing that some could be kept in slavery locally, others could be offered in human sacrifices to honor Dahomeyan deities, how civilized, and most would be transported to the coast, where they would be sold and board slave ships sailing to the Americas, especially Brazil. In more than one scene in The Woman King, Nanisca attempts to convince Gizo that the Europeans are trying to conquer them and that they would not stop until the whole of Africa is theirs. Well, I'll be damned. So black men swiftly under the bus with white women writing the film, by the way. So your black girl magic brought to you by white women. Okay, I didn't know I didn't know buck dancing shoes came with high heels. Some of y'all's buck dancing boots got high heels on them. How'd you manage that? She goes on to say, but at the time the film is set, both the French and the English forts in Oiba had already been abandoned. The city's modest Portuguese fort São João Batista was neither like the sumptuous yellowish building represented in the movie, nor was it as big as any of the existing Gold Coast fortresses of Elmina and Cape Coast, which survive in present-day Ghana. This is an important difference because although Europeans were allowed to build fortresses on Oida's shores, Dahomey and its agents always controlled the slave trade in the region. Well, I'll be damned, they acted like the Chinese. Yeah, the Chinese will allow you to build a car plant in China just so long as the Chinese get to run it. Well, glad we got that taken care of. Let me read that last sentence one more time here for those of you who are uninitiated about this. This is an important difference because although Europeans were allowed to build fortresses on Oida's shores, Dahomey and its agents always controlled the slave trade in the region. The Woman King portrays the Agoji as liberators. In the film, the Mahi, a people established north of Abome and allied with the Kingdom of Oyo, were seeking to capture Dahomey's subjects to sell them into slavery. But the reality was quite different. The more powerful Dahomeyan army was often the one that attacked the Mahi. King Gizo and his predecessors led several incursions against the Mahi between the 18th and 19th centuries. King Adandazan, Gizo's half-brother, who preceded him as the king of Dahomey from 1797 to 1818, narrated one of these wars in 1810 in correspondence addressed to the ruler of Portugal. In the missive, he tells in detail how his army killed the Mahi king and his subjects, including women. Most prisoners who escaped alive from these bloody battles were sold and sent into slavery to the Americas, especially Brazil. In theory, individuals born in Dahomey were protected against being sold into slavery. But as shown in The Woman King, as the Atlantic slave trade intensified, this rule was often broken, especially during the periods of succession to the throne. Take the example of Gizo's father, King Aganglo, who was killed following a palace plot in 1797. When his son, Adandazan, Gizo's half-brother, was enthroned, he punished several members of the royal family who participated in the conspiracy against his father by selling them into slavery. One of these family members was one of Aganglo's wives, Na Agantme. Okay, you thought your side chicks were treacherous. All right. Gizo's mother, who very probably went into slavery in Brazil. Now, let me put that sentence together, okay? Because I actually ran over a comma there because this is the same person. Let me go back. I want to make sure you all understand this. So, King Aganglo was killed in a palace coup. Gizo's one of his sons, was half brother to Gizo, who's in the movie. He is king, and he starts punishing all the members of the royal family who participated in the coup. One of these family members that he sent off into slavery was one of Aganglo's wives, Na Agantme, Gizo's mother, who very probably was sent into slavery in Brazil. So I wanted to make sure you all understood what they're trying to say. In the movie, Viola Davis is one of the Adoji warrior women under King Gizo. King Gizo's predecessor, his half-brother, most likely sent Gizo's mama off into slavery. And that's what happened in real life. It goes on to say here that in the film, Gizo quickly mentions the true story of his mother sold by his brother into slavery in Brazil, saying that he would not do the same. Yet in reality, when Gizo came to power through a coup d'etat against Adandazan in 1818, he punished his half-brother's family members by selling them into slavery outside the kingdom's borders. I'll be damned. No, the film ain't glossy. No, you need to see the film is what you need to do. You need to watch the film. The film see, you gonna come away with a different idea if you just go and see it. It's not distorting nothing. You need to understand. Can you find the film? Can you say this film was written by white women without saying this film was written by white women? Can you say white women wrote this propaganda without saying white women wrote this propaganda? Can you do that? Can you figure out a way to do that? I can say in 3 words, the woman king. All right. I'm telling you, their answer to every damn thing is slavery. I would hate to have an employer like that asking him for a raise. Hey, boss, you think I can get $1 more raise? Slavery. Boss, can I get a lunch break? Slavery. Can I go home? Slavery. Can I do overtime? Slavery. Oh, you need a new vocabulary. You need to expand your vocabulary, boss. For real. Their answer to every damn thing was slavery. What are we having for breakfast? Slavery. All right. What color shoes you gonna wear today? Slavery. Yeah, this has gone beyond an economic base. This is a religion. Where's your mama? Slavery. Your sister? Slave. Wife? Slave. Your brother? Dead. Okay, well, at least he didn't go to slavery. Oh, we enslaved him first. Whoa, okay. Slave, then dead. Okay, everybody got to go to slavery around here. All right. Boy, I'm telling you. It goes on to say here, in the movie, Naniska seems to convince Gizo to stop Dahomean participation in the Atlantic slave trade, as she seeks her daughter taken as a captive by the Oyo soldiers and transported to Oida to be sold into slavery. A dozen Adoji free their mates, who are chained in a slave pen on the beach. But, like their forerunners, the historical Gizo and his son and successor King Glili continued selling enslaved Africans to Brazilian and Cuban slave traders during the 1850s and 1860s. Some of these captives were sold into slavery in the United States as well. Take the example of Aloye Kasolo, alias Cujo Kazulu Lewis, whose village, Bante, north of Abome, was raided by the Dahomean army in 1859. With 109 other captives, Kasolo was sent into slavery to Alabama on board the slave ship Clotilda, considered to be the last slave ship to land in the United States. Okay, so Dahomey wanted to make sure they got their bid in and say, hey, we've sent slaves everywhere, including America. We weren't going to miss out on that. The article goes on to say the woman king depicts Dahomey as the good guys, while the kingdom of Oyo, the Mahi, and the Portuguese and the Brazilians are portrayed as the bad guys. But in reality, both Oyo and Dahomey sold into slavery the captives they made in the wars they waged during the 19th century. So if you recognize here, boy, they're getting 3 for the price of 1. She ends by saying any historical fiction is going to have its inaccuracies. The Woman King, a movie that is, in many ways, a pleasure to watch, depicts the Dahomean female fighters as powerful warriors. An historically correct image in the era of Black Lives Matter speaks positively to Black women who, all over the globe, have been fighting racism and white supremacy. But portraying Dahome's rulers and soldiers as pioneers of Pan-Africanism who fought to end the inhumane slave trade misleads audiences who might know little of African history and sells short the descendants of enslaved Africans who remained in West African soil or who were forcibly sent to the Americas. As one Agoji from the Mahi country says in the film, she chose to be a, quote, hunter, not prey. But unlike their rulers, most African men and women were left with no choice during the era of the Atlantic slave trade. Well, no wonder Angela didn't want to call in. If she had, she would have found herself corrected. If she had. Might have been an opportunity for her to do that. As it stands, well, she can stay where she was at. Everybody is trying to tell us what to think, who to be. Some of them are doing it through persuasion, through movies. Others are doing it by telling you are British subjects. All of them should be resisted. And only Black folk in America, only foundationals, only the former slaves, we're the only folks putting up any type of vanguard. The rest of the world will follow our example. They're talking about this by following our example. That's what they're doing. And what we say is what sets the tone for everyone. This is what it means to be cultural leaders. This is what it means to be leaders of a culture. They're not talking about the movie. They're talking about why folks shouldn't be doing it. And there's a reason that they left those things out, because that changes the narrative now, doesn't it? But enough from me. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. I want to thank all of you here for joining us. I know you learned a lot. There was a lot to learn. So make sure that you go ahead and soak that up. Watch tonight's program 3 or 4 more times. You need to go ahead and do that as well. I want to thank everyone, and I do mean everybody who has contributed to support tonight's program here. So thank you very much for that on PayPal, Cash App, Super Chat. Thank you very much for your support. Glad to see you all here in the chat room here tonight. And if you are new to the Black Channel, welcome to the haven of intelligent Black thought. We do this every weekend. Click that red subscribe button. Click that yellow notification bell. Check your subscription status and make sure that you are still subscribed. YouTube involuntarily unsubscribes people. Make sure that you're not one of those. And if they unsubscribe you, smash that red subscribe button. Join us each and every weekend. And if you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, you want to go there and check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m., Gentrified, Race War, all available on DVD, on streaming at Amazon. Go to blackchannelfilms.com. That is blackchannelfilms.com. Thank you all for joining us here tonight, and this concludes tonight's broadcast of The Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, The Black Authority, and until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, Black is the future, and the future is nations.